What is up, everybody? We are back to break down the first 5-game slate for EPL in 2021. It's going to be a fun season. We're back after quite a bit of layoff. Sorry, I think something is on my camera there. But after the layoff for the international break, we saw a lot of international soccer, whether it was Gold Cup, Euros over the summer here. But now we're back to the club atmosphere, and it's going to be a fun season going all the way through next year. So got a nice slate, and I'm going to get into the reason that I'm very excited for this season. And a lot of it is because some of the things that we saw last year, whether it's due to COVID or whatever it may be, with the staggered starts, not many games starting at once other than that last slate of the season. But it's going to be an awesome one coming up now in this run. We're going to have a lot of Saturday morning slates that are all the games starting at once. It's a nice welcome back, I would say. It's kind of a thing that most slates, I think, are going to be like this looking out over the next few months. And that's big for us because covering college football, as you know, the lock for that is always 12 o'clock. And last year, we would have a game start at 10 o'clock was the first one. We'd have a second one at 12:30, which is right in the middle of all the rush from all the news for college football. So it's nice that we're going to have a 10 o'clock slate sandwiched by a couple showdowns most weeks. So that's going to be big for EPL. I mean, I would think that would bring a lot more eyes to it that are up building college football teams. Maybe they go ahead and do so for the 10 o'clock EPL slate. So I think it's going to be a fun season for everybody. Hopefully we see a little bit of growth on DraftKings as well over the year. There's some big contests out there. For Saturday, we have the showdown tomorrow as well to get things started. So ready for the weekend. If you haven't checked us out over at Jaeger Mom's Fantasy Sports, be sure to get over the link in the comment section. We have patreon.com/JaegerBombs. We're covering MLB, NFL, soccer, pretty much every league there is out there, I feel like right now. CFL, Canadian Football League. So Ryan and Chris have got a sheet together for that and are covering that each week. We had a very successful first week. And then college football, like I mentioned before, is coming back at the end of this month. So that's going to be fun. League of Legends, Kenny and Ryan are both covering that, the different leagues there. So it's $10 for one sport. You get access to the sheet for that sport and access to the Discord for that sport as well. Or you can just do $20 and get every sport that we cover. I think that'll be a very popular deal to go, especially when football comes back. We have college football Thursday night along with NFL showdown. And then you got some weeks you'll have college football on Friday night, Saturday night, and then NFL Sunday and then Monday night. So you're going to get a lot of coverage from us as well as NBA when it comes back. We try to cover pretty much all the sports there are out there. We'll have sheets up for you and coverage in the Discord. So what I'm going to do in this video, since this is the first one of the year, I'm going to go through a sheet that kind of talks about the news in this off season. So the transfers that have happened. I think it's important to look at that because you're going to have slates that come up that either you don't know the team very well, that one of the three teams that were promoted to the EPL this year, or you could have a deal that it's a completely new look team. So that's what we're going to do first. Let me pull that up for you guys. And bear with me because I have not done a show since really since we had Euros in, I believe. So getting back in the swing of things, I'm going to try to do these each week, at least for look at our cover boy here. But I'm going to try to do these each week, at least for the Saturday slate, maybe more. Might be private videos for the Discord, but we'll see how it goes throughout the season. So starting out, Arsenal, I'm just going to touch on a couple of the key pieces. They didn't have many major bring-ins. They did bring in Ben White from Brighton, the defender. They released David Luiz. As you can see, not many high-name deals that went on here. They're very much a similar team coming into this year, so not major changes there. Aston Villa is a team that is a complete overhaul, and it's probably going to take, and they are on the Saturday slate, but it's probably going to take a little time to get used to how the roles on this team are going to work. Jack Grealish is gone. Is the big news. They added Emiliano Buendia from Norwich, who is actually back up in the EPL this year. They added Ashley Young from Inter. They added Leon Bailey from Leverkusen in Germany, and then Danny Ings from Southampton to man that front line as well. So it's going to be interesting. I'll touch on my thoughts on them in this slate later on. They get Watford in this first one, who was promoted from the Championship. But that's a completely new look team. Brentford is a team that didn't add that much. Frank Onyeka from Midland is kind of one of the names that we might know. But they're very a similar team that they were in the Championship. But we got to get used to them because we didn't cover very much of that last year. And we've not seen them in the EPL very recently. Brighton, Enoch Mwepu from Salzburg is up. That's one of their bigger additions there. They lost Matt Ryan, the goalkeeper. Davy Proper. Not very many big names departed. Ben White, like I mentioned earlier. Davy Proper to PSV. But a fairly similar team with a couple new additions there. They are on the slate as well. Burnley is a very similar looking team this year. A few very small changes and new additions, but they are a very similar team. They're also on the slate on Saturday. Chelsea got one of the bigger additions, Romelu Lukaku from Inter. Not sure if he's going to play Saturday, but they're massive favorites. They did lose Olivier Giroud. Kind of seen that one coming. He went to AC Milan, wasn't getting the playing time that he really wanted late in his career. So we did lose him, and I say we because they are my favorite team personally. But the big news there is Romelu Lukaku. I think that was a much needed signing for them. Timo Werner did not look very good last year in the EPL. I think Romelu Lukaku will kind of move into that front role, and we'll go from there because I think there is a lot of upside for this Chelsea team, especially with how they are on defense. I'm going to check and see. Yeah, Travis, nice to say. Be sure to check it out later. You got a couple days, I guess, until Saturday morning. But if anybody has any questions while I'm on here, be sure to check out the comment section and drop any questions that you have in there, and I'll be sure to answer them as we go along. Crystal Palace, not any major changes. Nathaniel Klein moved over, just some names that we recognize, except for that they lost Anders Townsend to Everton, Gary Cahill, James McCarthy, Scott Dan, Patrick Van Aanholt. There's some names out there that we recognize that are gone from Crystal Palace. So I don't expect a whole lot out of them this year. I think that's who gets Chelsea to start with, and I won't be on them this today especially, but there's not going to be very many slates that I am on Crystal Palace, I don't believe, this year. Everton, fairly similar again, but they add Anders Townsend. He did take some set pieces there for Everton last, so he could provide some floor just depending on what his role looks like. Damari Gray from Leverkusen has come over as well. Not very many. Theo Walcott to Southampton permanently. Leeds is a fairly similar team, but they did release Ezjan Alioski, which was a fairly big name last year for them and a pretty big name in the Euros, as we saw as well. So that's kind of surprising. I don't know the full story there. Leicester adds Ryan Bertrand from Southampton, and we'll get into him. I really like him on this Saturday slate. I like his upside for the season with the role that he looks like he's been given, or at least he was given in the Community Shield game with Man City. But that's kind of what I'm looking for there with Leicester. That's kind of their biggest addition. Daka, though, I mean, he's going to have a definite role. I'm not sure how much he will start, but Daka from Salzburg is one of the forwards that could have some upside, add some depth to that front line for Leicester. Liverpool, again, fairly similar team. With Wijnaldum to PSG. Let's see. That's kind of the biggest thing. They're a very similar team. Salah, Mane. And then you move to Man City. We got the biggest addition maybe of the offseason, Jack Grealish from Aston Villa. Paid him tons of money. They let Jack Harrison go to Leeds permanently. Sergio Aguero has left for Barcelona. Eric Garcia is gone. But again, a fairly similar team, just added another major addition with Jack Grealish. And I'm not sure the details currently, but Harry Kane is still much in the works, I believe. Man United, Jadon Sancho, we know him from Dortmund, from England. That's a big addition for them. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in that Man U attack. And then Rafael Varane from Real Madrid is a great defender. So that will be a major addition for them as well. Let's see. Newcastle, fairly similar team there. I don't see any notable additions or releases there for Newcastle. Norwich, they're coming back up. They were down 1 year, back to the championship. They were up a couple years ago in the EPL. They add Josh Sargent, the American from Werder Bremen, in the Bundesliga. Rashika from Werder Bremen as well. Billy Gilmore is on loan from Chelsea, it looks there. So that's to go along with what they already have. I think that's going to be an interesting team. I don't expect it to be by any means one of the top teams in the league, but I think they do have some potential going forward. Southampton gets Theo Walcott permanently. Parade from Brest there. That's a defender that will probably start for them, and I think he will be. He's fairly expensive on this first slate, but could be a potential nice play there. Adam Armstrong from Blackburn is a guy in the championship that dominated last year, so I think he will be an interesting one. But they did lose Ryan Bertrand, like I mentioned, to Leicester. And then Danny Ings to Aston Villa as well. So it's a fairly new-look team for Southampton, but we'll see where it goes. Tottenham, a lot of deal in the offseason with Harry Kane. He's still there as of now, to my knowledge. They add Brian Gill from Sevilla, Romero from Atalanta. They lose, let's see, where was he? They lose Eric Lamela to Sevilla, and Toby is gone as well, the defender. And then Watford, they're coming back up, like I mentioned as well. Etebo from Stoke City is one of their notable guys that they're bringing up. Luza from Nantes from Liga 1 is a move as well. Emmanuel Dennis from Club Brugge is a decent move there for them. Hard to know what you're going to get. They're a decent team. They're a good defensive team. But tough to know what you're going to get coming back up. A lot of guys with a lot to prove, so they could overachieve for sure. And then West Ham, not many major changes there for them. On loan, Fabian Balbuena was released. Not many notables there. And Wolves, Rayon Ait-Nouri is permanently over from Angers. Trincao is over from Barcelona on a loan. They're probably trying to get Barcelona back off the ground. Wow, that's quite the story there. If you don't know, they are in major trouble financially. Barcelona, obviously, Messi is gone. Patricio has gone to Roma. They added Jose Sa from Olympiacos. We know him as the goalkeeper from there. And that's kind of the major additions. I mean, the ones that I'm looking for, obviously Jack Grealish, see how he fits in at Man City. But the major one is this man. I really want to see how Romelu Lukaku fits in. And it's going to be an interesting one to see how he fits in with that team. So let's go on over to the sheet. I don't want to defer any more than I've already done here. So let's go to the sheet. Let's talk about the slate that we have in front of us on Saturday morning. We have Brighton and Burnley is the first game here. Brighton is the favorite, plus 150 to plus 210 for Burnley. 2 total here. So not many goals expected. But there's some decent floors, I believe, here. Pascal Gross is a guy that last year we saw have a monopoly of set pieces throughout the he had a monopoly of set pieces after Solly March went down, 6,800. He's not going to have a monopoly of set pieces, but with Solly March back, but he's 6,800. I think he's more than capable of getting there at that price. So I think you can go there. I think he's in definite consideration for cash games or a core building block at that price. Solly March, 5,900, is also in consideration because he should come back and get a share of sets, and he's sub 6K. You could go Neil Maupay in GPP, but probably not going there on this big of a slate for me. On the other side, Dwight McNeil is 7,500. He should have a share of sets with Ashley Westwood. Dwight McNeil does a lot more in open play than Ashley Westwood. And I think that is where I would go if I'm going to Burnley out of everybody there. I suppose you could go GPP on one of the goal scorers, but I would hold my exposure to Dwight McNeil. So I'm going to go with the set piece takers in that game only. Dwight McNeil, Pascal Gross, Solly March is who I'm considering initially. Second game is Chelsea, the biggest favorite on the slate, minus 360 against Crystal Palace, who's 11-1, and the 2 3/4 total here. So not sure that Romelu Lukaku is going to be able to play in this first game. I've not seen the definite news, but it's going to be a team that we do want a piece of at least. Mason Mount, we saw him. It was kind of all over the place last year. Early in the year, it was pretty much a split with Reece James, Ben Chilwell, some Mason Mount on set pieces. And then kind of the little end of the year, it went to Reece James monopoly, Ben Chilwell monopoly. And then just after half the year, it seemed like it went Mason Mount monopoly. And then by the end of the year, it was back to more of a split. But in this matchup, I do kind of expect it to be a split again. I don't think Mason Mount has a monopoly of sets. I think James and Chilwell could definitely take. They're much cheaper and a different position than Mason Mount. But at defender, one of those is definitely going to be a core building block for me. I think they're very close. I mean, look at last year's stats there and how they rate out. Very close. If both are starting, I think you can go to either one. If you need the 400, go to Reece James. But Mason Mount is in consideration for sure in a optimal build for me. But 9,000 will kind of be tough to get to. It just depends if I have the value to get up there. I mean, obviously, he has good odds for a goal or assist here, but 9,000 is tough when you know he's probably not going to have a full monopoly of set pieces. The rest of Chelsea, Jorginho is going to be on PKs. We seen him with Italy, how good he was there on PKs. He's 4,700. I mean, you could go that route if you wanted to. Timo Werner and Kai Havertz at 8,000, just over 8,000, I think are good GPP plays, but they are a little more goal dependent. So probably not building blocks, even though I wouldn't blame you with how big of a favorite they are. On Crystal Palace, I won't be going to either any piece there. The ball a whole lot. So I'm just going to be shying away from Crystal Palace personally. Everton and Southampton. Southampton is the dog here, plus 310 to Everton's minus 110, 2.25 total. Southampton, James Ward-Prowse, I'm not sure. I think I did see he was cleared, but not sure he'll start. We'll obviously know before lock. But I think that takes a lot away from this team. If he is not able to go, I think Everton is in a great spot here against Southampton. James Rodriguez should probably have at least a share of sets. I mentioned that they added Anders Townsend, and he took some sets with Crystal Palace last year. Not sure that he'll do so here. I think I'm going to shy away from him, at least initially, see what that role is. I think Lucas Dean and James Rodriguez should be the share of sets. Both are very good plays at 7,700 and 6,000. Both are in consideration for core building blocks as well. At the forward position, it's just going to be interesting to see if Charleston is back. Not sure that he will be. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, DCL, 6,400. It would be a decent option. As you can see, 16 goals last year. I think you could definitely go there in GPPs. Southampton, again, that's going to be a team that I'm probably staying away from. Che Adams, maybe GPP. Redmond and Armstrong are just kind of blah midfield plays, but with what we have on the slate, Parad, I mentioned, was a transfer in, but he's 5,100. Not knowing his full role yet, it would be kind of tough to go there. So that's where I'm at in that one. Leaning on the Everton side. Leicester and Wolves. So Leicester is an interesting team. They're minus 145 favorites, plus 400 for Wolves. The set pieces, if you look at it, there's 3 people on this projected starting lineup that we would expect to possibly take sets. But we saw in the Community Shield that Ryan Bertrand was actually on sets. Transfer over from Southampton, he's 4,300. So if he's going to have at least a share of sets for Leicester as one of the bigger favorites on the slate, I think he is a definite core value play at 4,300. And then last year, what we kind of saw was James Maddison was on a monopoly of set pieces early in the year. Yuri Tielemans was on the set pieces once Maddison was injured, and he stayed on set pieces once James Maddison was back. The thing is, it just kind of looked that Ryan Bertrand had such a role on sets that I don't think I'm going to go to Yuri Tielemans. It looked like he set back a little more. So James Maddison would be my second favorite option on Leicester. He still does a lot in open play, still has upside with goal scoring and things like that. Harvey Barnes and Jamie Vardy, you can always go there for GPP goal. And then on the other side, if you really want to get crazy in a large field, if you're multi-entering, I would throw in a Adama Traore, Raul Jimenez stack there. And I'm going to talk about a little strategy at the very end of this video about things that I look at, cash versus GPP. But those two paired up quite a bit a couple years ago. Jimenez was hurt a lot of last year. But a couple years ago, Traore and Jimenez did a lot together. They paired up on a lot of goals and assists. Traore, we know what he does in open plays. You can see 119 crosses last year and 37 appearances. And I think that would be at 69 and 7,200, at least an interesting GPP dark throw there. Leicester, though, would be the side that I lean for core plays and value plays. Last game is a tough one. Aston Villa, like I said, lost Jack Grealish, and they added a few different pieces. So in this starting lineup, the only guy that I would really consider for cash would be Buendia coming over from Norwich. 8,600 could have a role on sets for sure. Leon Bailey would be the favorite GPP play for me. We know him from the Gold Cup as well. 7,400, I think you can go there. El Ghazi is 8,300. We saw him have a share of sets at some points last year. And Danny Ings coming over would be a fine GPP option as well. I think this is an interesting team moving on what they have going on as far as their roles. Matt Cash and Matt Target as the fullbacks definitely have some appeal as well. Probably Matt Cash at 3,700 would be my favorite. For Watford coming back up, this is the only team on the main slate that is coming back up from the championship. So these stats I've manually inputted. They are from the championship last year. You can see Sema and Sarr and Cleverly and Famina all had a bunch of crosses. They play a few more games in the championship. But Sarr would be and Luza, who was an addition for them this year, would really be the only two that I'm going to consider. Sarr would be my favorite at 6,500. Does a little bit of everything for them, as you can see. 85 shots, more than a couple a game on average there, and has a lot of crossing as well. So Sarr would be my favorite, but they're a good defensive team, Watford is. I mentioned that earlier, so that's why I do shy away a little bit from this Aston Villa front line, but it's going to be interesting to see how they all mesh together. And this is the 2.5 total. I mean, we have some 2.25 total, so it's not like this is a major the books are expecting a 1-0 game necessarily. I mean, they're expecting 1-1, 2-0, something of that nature. So I think you can definitely go there in GPP. So one last thing that I want to talk about before we get out of here. I know I've ran quite long on this video, 26 minutes. It's not something that I'm going to try to do a lot of the year. But one thing I do want to talk about is just overall DFS strategy. And maybe I should have done this at the beginning, but if you are new to DFS soccer, what are some of the things that we're looking for? What am I talking about with set pieces? Some of those things. So floors, if you're looking at cash versus GPP, obviously cash, you're wanting the safer guys that have a floor that can generate points for almost certainty in their games. GPP, you're looking for a little more flair. I mean, you're looking for some goal scorers. Guys who do rely on goals are a little more important in GPPs. But for floors, what are you looking for? And that's for crosses on the sheet. So if you look at the sheet, you're looking at the crosses here. As you can see, Dwight McNeil had quite a few last year. Charlie Taylor for them, Ashley Westwood, just as an example with Burnley. So that's some of the things you're looking for. You're looking for when I show, or if you're looking, I use SofaScore an hour before lock. When lineups come out, they will release the formation. So you're looking for wide players. If you're looking at defenders, usually for floors, you're wanting them wide so that they're out wide, they're bombing forward, they're crossing. That's some of the things you're looking for. And then set pieces. What am I talking about? I'm talking about free kicks. I'm talking about corner kicks. So on the sheet, we do have corner kicks. So you can see on the sheet who takes set pieces. What do set pieces do? They provide a floor. And I've talked about this in the past. But they don't just provide crosses. They provide shots assisted, assists, a lot of different things. They could be a rebound shot off of a deflection. I mean, who knows? It's just getting the ball into the box, and they're part of doing that. So when you see guys that are taking corners, taking free kicks, it just increases their floor to go there. So in GPPs, what are you looking for? That's kind of what you're looking for in cash games, single entries, things like that. What are you looking for in GPPs? You're looking for upside. You're looking for goalie, defender, clean sheet upside, pairing the same team's defenders with their goalie for maybe some upside there if they keep it clean and don't allow a goal. Set takers, like I mentioned, pair those with the striker on the team. That was kind of what I mentioned with Wolves. Adama Traore, we go back down, Adama Traore with Raul Jimenez. Pair them up, hope that it's a goal and assist situation. Jimenez from Traore, whether that's on a set piece or whatever it may be. So that's one way that you can do it. But a lot of it is going for that correlation, going for the goal upside, maybe targeting. I mean, obviously, you might be going for a little against the grain in GPPs and going for a team that's not going to be heavily owned. I mean, you get a lot of these soccer slates that the massive favorite has tons of ownership, and then I'll be sure to touch on those, of course. And the last thing that I'll say with EPL, there's not a ton of goals. You'll see some leagues that you're going to see totals 3.25. You'll see that sometimes in the Champions League when we get there because of the difference in competition. But EPL is fairly similar across the board in that you're not going to see very many 3.5 totals or anything like that. And we went through the totals. You're going to see anywhere from 2 to 3 most slates. I mean, there's not much over that. So that makes floors a lot more important in EPL than some other leagues. And I like to touch on that in the chat when I am covering other leagues. Like tonight, LMX, Liga MX in Mexico, is fairly similar. You don't usually see tons of goals in there either. I think it's Liga Un is even lower than EPL. But then you also have some other leagues that you see higher goal outputs. MLS is definitely one of those. You see much higher goal outputs there. So that's just kind of a deal that I'm looking at. Be sure to hop in the chat, see the core plays that we come up with on Saturday morning. An hour before lock, we'll have all the lineups updated on the sheet. We will filter those out on here. Let's see. So we have each of the different positions, as you can see here, and we will filter out the non-starters. As you can see, if it's white here, that means they're projected to start. NA is not projected, but you're going to see an S there once they're starting, and we will filter and hide the non-starters, especially on a slate this big. And then also an hour before lock, I'll be filling out this sheet, the top targets tab that has my rankings for each position as well. So be sure to hop in the Discord. Join us for every slate that we're covering with soccer, but not only that, and all the other sports. So good luck to everybody on Saturday. So glad that EPL is back and looking forward to a great year. Hoping that Chris is able to join me later on in the season for a lot of these videos. It's a nice back and forth between us. So thanks for everybody for tuning in. Hit me up with any questions. We have until Saturday morning before lock, but we'll also be covering the showdown tomorrow afternoon as well. So good luck this weekend, everybody, and let's get things started out right.